Hello and welcome to my podcast, Used to Be's Do Count, with me, Dean James. You're listening to episode number 3, I Used to Be Straight.
The highlights.
In this episode, I'll be speaking to Kimberley Maynard, who talks about her journey from living as a straight person to being in a loving, supportive, same-sex relationship with her girlfriend. Thank you for listening, and now without further ado, let's dive in.
I was in secondary school in the 90s. I started secondary school in 1993. And I remember first kind of noticing boys, I suppose, around 13, 14. Really, that's when I really became interested. But it's kind of, everybody else was noticing boys. So that's all we used to have magazines back then, all the, boy bands and things that were out back then. And, all girls used to talk about was boys and how we felt about boys at that time.
So your girl group or girlfriend groups were buying magazines that were, and I actually remember this vividly as well. I'm a very similar age.
Yeah.
For those people that really don't know what you're talking about, some of these magazines like Smash Hits.
Yeah, just 17.
Yeah. Really aimed at teenage girls.
Yeah.
And really boy-driven. Boy bands. Take That. 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boys.
It was also a magazine that I probably shouldn't have been reading at that time. I think it was called More Magazine. And that was very sexualized. It used to have Position of the Fortnight in there every time it came out. Yeah. And I remember being about 14 reading that. And it was very much aimed at, it's probably aimed at a little bit older than I was, but obviously I was able to get a hold of it. It was just about kind of how to get your man and, what things to do to try and get that man in your life and things like that. And I remember reading those, just 17, More magazines, Smash Hits, things like that. And just being bombarded with boys and men.
It's incredible, really, when you think about it. It's so the norm.
Yeah.
You don't even think that there is an agenda at all to it because you're just living through that norm. But now so much has changed and you look back at that and you think, wow, the media, there was an agenda to push to young people this heteronormative lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it was very much the same for boys as well. There was the FHM, there was the lads magazines, there was the lads culture in the 90s. I lived through that as well. So I really do relate to what you're saying on the opposite spectrum of the gender.
Was it that I was suppressing my homosexuality, or was it that I was genuinely straight at that time and I didn't know any kind of different, I suppose? So I talk about it with my partner, and even the boy bands that I liked, like 3T, which were like Michael Jackson's nephews. They were very pretty looking boys at the time. And I was obsessed. I had about 63 posters of them on my wall that I collected from all these different magazines. And I just think they were like the most prettiest boys that you could find. Very feminine looking boys. There was a couple of people around in my friendship, not in my friendship group, but kind of on the periphery of my friendship group, who were very clearly gay, but weren't out as gay and would be kind of dating women and all the rest of it. But even then, even with the gay people that I kind of had a feeling might be gay, I never saw any women that were gay. So I only had, for me, gayness was a man's thing. It wasn't that women could be with other women type of thing. I didn't really know about that type of thing. So it was nothing I could really ever explore back then because it wasn't anything I really knew about or had anybody that I could look to say, oh, that's what, being a lesbian is or being with a woman is. I never had any kind of role models in that. And as I grew up, I would eventually meet people who were lesbians. And it always intrigued me. I was like, wow, that's like amazing. Like two women can actually be together. And it was something that I'd always kind of looked at and thought, wow, I'm really interested in that because it was something that I hadn't really seen before. I definitely wasn't emotionally ready to be sexually active. And it affected me quite a lot, really, just in terms of feeling wanted almost.
Looking for that validation
external
external
Yeah.
sources, but also male sources, males that find you attractive.
Yeah.
That was the validation.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to be validated in that way. And obviously that's never going to be a good thing. I was, the boyfriends that I had during that period of time kind of all cheated on me. And it made me feel like, oh, maybe I'm not kind of good enough in bed, sexually. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not. So it kind of it damaged my ego a little bit and damaged my self-esteem.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for that validation from boys, they give you the validation short term, and then they go and cheat because they can't keep it in their pants.
Yeah.
And then,
but they're teenage boys.
of course, but then that really has a detrimental effect on your own self-esteem because that's what you're looking at to build that, right? Your confidence in yourself.
Yeah. So I had my own therapy, and that was a bit hit and miss. I had a couple of counsellors during that time, but I did manage to work through some of those issues, really, just about my self-worth, my self-esteem. And although it didn't at that time help me stop the relationship that, the toxicness that was going on between me and my son's father, it built towards that. So I started to, become who I really am as a person, I suppose. And once I've qualified as a therapist, the first big change that happened after that was I stopped relaxing my hair, I stopped straightening my hair and allowed my natural curls.
Which are gorgeous. Wow. That is a really visual thing for you as well.
Yeah.
Like hair is, hair is really important and it changes the face. And people say, oh, when I broke up, I got a new hairdo or whatever. But you actually just started to embrace your natural curls.
Yeah.
Naturally. And that was a representation of embracing who you really were.
Yeah. Becoming me as, Kimberley, the real version of me. And I'd relaxed my hair for so long, since I was about 12, I've been relaxing my hair. I didn't even know I had these curls underneath my hair. Like back when I had curly hair before I started relaxing it, we didn't have the products to be able to manage that type of hair. So all I'd do is just kind of scrape it up into a bun, and I've hardly ever let it out and just be the way it was.
And how did that feel when you started to do that? Did you start to feel like it, so that you went through this therapy, you started to stop relaxing your hair and embrace it? There was a real change in the way you felt in yourself.
Yeah. And I don't think I really realised it at the time. So it wasn't kind of like, I've done therapy and now I'm going to stop relaxing my hair. It kind of just happened naturally.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to let my hair do what it wants to do and see. And it was a bit of a culture shift at that time where people had stopped relaxing their hair, and there was quite a few people online that were coming out going through the transition process of their hair. So about a year ago I just made that decision that I was going to change my profile settings to women and men. So I hadn't made the decision to go fully women, and I thought I'm gonna swipe and see some people. So I swiped a few people and had a few matches. And I got talking to 2 people, I think, at the time. But one kind of, really stood out. And I decided that I would meet her and see where that went.
So that was a big deal to even go on the commitment of meeting someone in person. So where did you meet this person?
So we decided to meet in Oxford.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so you live in Birmingham?
I live in Birmingham and she lives in London.
Okay, so you kind of decided on a middle ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was probably about a week we was talking before we actually decided to meet up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really open and honest with her. I was like, I've dated men. I've only just changed my settings to dating women. This is all really new to me. I've never, at this point, never even kissed another woman. So I've got straight friends that have kissed more women than I have. So I was just really open and honest about that, and was just like, it's not an experiment. No, I know, I've been thinking about my interest in women for a very long time, and I'm not looking to experiment with. I was very certain that I didn't want to experiment with women. It wasn't that I wanted to go out and just find out if I, was sexually attracted to women. I was looking for a special connection with somebody, whether that be a man or a woman. I wasn't really bothered.
Yeah, at that point you were adamant that it actually didn't matter whether it was a man or a woman. It was what you were looking for was an emotional, spiritual connection.
It wasn't a sexual thing. It was kind of, I want to meet somebody who wants the same things as me, has the same values as me, who, you know, is looking for the same kind of future as me. I was in my 40s. I was absolutely sick of messing around with people. You know, sex wasn't a big deal for me because, as I said, it's easy to get sex, you know, from either gender if you want it. You know, if you put yourself out there as wanting that, you can get those things.
And we put so much importance on sex when we're younger.
Exactly.
It's like the crucial thing when you're younger is like, no, if we're not sexually compatible, next.
Exactly.
And then you get to an age where you go, no, the sex is almost secondary actually, because you need
that can build.
you need to be compatible in so many other ways, and then the sex can come later, and you can work at that.
Exactly, you know. That's something you can work at. What you can't work at is, you know, whether that person has got the same values as you, whether that person wants the same things from life as you. Those are things that are a black and white situation, really. If you haven't got those things, then it's not going to work. Because I really did Birmingham, my location settings were already set to, I think, about 20 miles. That was the furthest I was prepared to go to see anybody.
Fair enough.
The girl that I met, she had the same settings, about 20 to 30 miles. But it just so happened that the day we matched on Tinder, I was in London seeing a show, and she was in London for work, and our apps just kind of matched up, and we ended up swiping each other. But actually, if we hadn't been in the same place at the time, we would never have come across each other.
Would never have come up on.
So when I say the universe had something for me, I really do think that the universe was pushing me in this direction. Like, even the timing of me changing my settings, it was only probably a couple of days before I matched with this person.
It was supposed to happen at that time. I'm a true believer. I'm a bit spiritual as well, and I definitely believe in the power of the universe and giving us the right things at the right time. So we can all stay hopeful for that, because you're proof that is true. I think you were ready to receive that person in your life, and you were ready to receive a change.
Definitely. So me and her have been seeing each other now. It's coming up to a year. And it's, you know, been absolutely life altering for me to be in a relationship where I feel valued, wanted, chosen, looked after, cared about, you know, all the things that I've been looking for this whole time. I now have that. I
mean, I'm grinning from ear to ear. It's so lovely. It's so lovely. And I'm so happy that you found that, and that you're happy, you feel comfortable, you feel secure in a relationship with a woman, same-sex relationship. So how did you announce that to the world, to your family? How did that happen? How did you feel?
So obviously, because we lived in different areas, so she lives in London and I live in Birmingham, there were times where she would have to, we was getting to a stage where she would need to come and stay to spend any time with me, really, because otherwise she's driving back and forth.
And you really couldn't go to London to see her at the time, because you've got family, you've got kids. My
granddaughter, even though they're living with me, I need to be around for them. So obviously I wanted her to come and stay, and she had come and stayed when my son wasn't there, but she was going to come and stay for a week, and my son was going to be around. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to tell him, ask him how he feels about it, if it's okay. And he's 15 at the moment, so it's not like he's really young, and, you know, I wasn't able to have these conversations with him. So, you know, I sat down and spoke to him first and foremost, and just said, I've seen a woman, and I would be lucky to come and stay. I want to know how you feel about it. And he was really good. He was really good about it. He was very shocked. He was like, "Oh, so my mom's a lesbian? Is that what you're saying?" But actually, he took it really, really well. I was anxious about telling him, because you kind of know how they're going to take it, but you're never 100% sure. And obviously, I didn't want him to become confused or upset or kind of question his whole existence because of my sexuality. But he kind of just took it in his stride. And then I was on a roll then. I just kind of literally told everybody. I told my daughter, who doesn't live with me, but obviously needed to know because my son knew. And then once I told her, I told my sister, my mom, my really close friends. I kind of just told everybody. So
you just springboard, you ripped off the plaster. You just told your son, because your son lives with you. That was kind of priority, and you wanted your girlfriend to come stay. And then after he reacted the way he did, you just went, you know what, now he knows, everyone needs to know, and you tore the plaster off.
And you know what, because I'd never said it out loud to anybody, it became quite freeing, I suppose, telling people. So I kind of got addicted to that feeling. They're just like,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell this person, this person, this person.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel privileged in that, you know, my story has been a lot simpler than a lot of other people's stories, as you said, people's coming out stories, and people, you know, absolutely fearful of losing family and friends, and have lost family and friends in the process of being able to come out. And I've not had to experience any of that. And I don't feel like I lived my life as a gay person who couldn't come out and couldn't tell anybody. I genuinely didn't know that I was kind of, that I had these suppressed feelings because of how pushed down they were. I wasn't kind of living, I didn't feel like I was living a lie at that time. I was being me.
You were just being you.
But I know there are people who live that way, you know, they don't feel like they can be themselves.